Hey everybody, welcome back to the fourth video in the Chainmail brush series. Today we're going to be going over the final steps and all the good stuff to get this brush working the way we want. So last video we went and imported everything and tried it out and set up our layers to kind of get things going, right? However, we do have the first brush here, which is the rings, and they're a little thin, so we need to update that. So to start with, we're going to open up our Chainmail Krita file with all the patterns that we made in it, and we're going to refine this brush a little and make it a little bit thicker, so when we go to use it in the final work or illustration to make that chainmail appearance, it's going to have more to it. It's not just going to be thin little circles. So go ahead and open up your chainmail file where you had all the patterns made. If you didn't make the ring and you're not interested in making the ring, you can go ahead into the video description and skip to the next part, where we just kind of illustrate and refine everything. So we're just going to have two options to make this thicker. We can either duplicate and shrink it, or we can make another shape and just try and center it. I'm going to do the easy option, which is duplicating it. Going to transform, make sure that's not locked anymore. And under the tool options, I'm going to make sure that the cursor or the center point here is in the middle, and we're going to make sure that's locked. So when we scale it, we're scaling it this way. Oops. Right? So now it's kind of got a nice perfect scale, and that's much thicker now. And I'm going to make it a little bit thicker. So I'm going to duplicate that one more time. Hit the Control T for the transform. And I'm going to make that just a smidge thicker. And then I'm going to merge them below. And before I do anything else, I'm going to go ahead and save this as V2. So that way if I want to go back to my original, I can. Or you can just duplicate all the layers and keep it in the same file. It's totally up to you. So, file, I'm going to save as, make sure this is a PNG. I'm going to put that in our folder, put round, put that at version 3. And then I'm going to go back into this here. And as you can see from last couple videos, we have these chainmail patterns that we imported here. I'm actually going to go ahead and delete this one. So, because I don't want this one anymore, I'm going to click on this and I'm going to go down here to the trash can. I'm also going to delete this one. There we go. And then I'm going to import. Give that a minute to load, and now we go back up to the brush settings, and it'll be at the bottom because it's a brand new one that we haven't closed Krita and all that fun stuff. And as before, we're going to change our brush settings to make sure the size isn't changing and all that fun stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then I'll see you in a second. Alright, so now that we've updated our brush here with the circle, we can go ahead and continue to make our strokes, kind of overlap this. So it looks like they're intertwining. They aren't perfect strokes. You can see how that's got some nice texture to it, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate that layer, and I'm just going to overlap that and do it once more. And merge them down below. And erase anything that I don't need. It's a little sloppy here, that's fine. There we go. Looks pretty good to me. Alright, so now that we've got our first layer here, we can go in and refine that if we want with some shading. I'm actually going to duplicate this and lock that layer. So we're going to add in some, let's just add in some gray. So I did a little bit more work with this. I'm certain to build up some lights and shadows and some just nice effects for this chainmail. Obviously it would look better with the full arm. So I'm just going to go ahead and duplicate. I'm just going to rotate this. So as you can see, I'm missing a lot. It's because I erased some of it. Partially by mistake and partially because I wanted to get a better effect going. Do that. There we go. I can actually merge that down with the layer below and build up on that some more. Erase some of that. Extra chainmail on that. Oh, coming off the arm there. And same up here. So as you can see, the more we start focusing on building up some of these lights and darks with the pattern brush, the more we start getting some of that effect of the chainmail. And I'm just layering this up, unlocking the transparency to add more to it. This is really the not even the downfall, but the hard part of doing anything with pattern brushes. You have to build up to get the effect that you want. I made a bright chain here, and now I have to go back and tone this down a little bit by constantly overlaying the brush over this, adding the darks back in on top. I can even go in and erase it with the lower opacity. For the eraser, I can just go in and add more dark grays. Add in some more black. There we go. So as you can see, the more we build it up, the more of that chainmail effect that we're getting. Obviously this is still needs some work up here, but you can see as we progressed on the bottom, it's looking a little better, right? So we're going to leave that for now because we still have two other patterns to go over and to show how we can get that refined and looking good. So I'm going to go ahead and group these. I'm going to put these in a new group. Oops. We're going to name this circle pattern. It's a good ring pattern too, but that's fine. And right, so now we're going to go to the pattern, which is this one here. And this one, I'm going to set up the rotation and everything back up again. I'm going to turn that softness off because I don't need it. And I'll be right back while I get those settings back to what we chose before. Okay, so I've got my settings pretty good for this brush. So just like the round chainmail one, this could probably be a little thicker to add way more. You know, it's a little thin right now, because if I just go ahead and make a few strokes here, overlap that, it's a little thin to get that illusion going, right? It's not bad, but it could be better. So we're going to go ahead and do the same thing here. First, we're going to make sure that we open up the Krita file, and we're going to duplicate the layer. So similar to the ring, we duplicate the layer, and we're just going to drag this out a little bit and just kind of stretch a little bit so it's got a curve. So that looks a little better. So we're going to save the Krita file, and I'm going to save it as a PNG. So save as PNG. And put that back in our brush folder as well. Go ahead and import that. I'm going to delete the old one just so I don't confuse myself. You don't have to if you don't want to. Import the new one. Already you can see that's much thicker than what we had before. Okay, so you can see after we imported the new brush that this looks a little bit thicker. Not by too much, but it's there. And once we fixed our rotation, like we did in the previous video, so that each direction. This is kind of overlapping a little bit, right? You get an interesting chainmail effect as well. So if you want, we have the arm, and we already kind of shaded the arm a little darker here to kind of give some more shadow. So if we want, we can actually add a little bit more for this. I'm just gonna kind of blend it here. Right, and I'll show you what we can do here by making this darker, because this pattern brush is a little different. I'm going to put another layer on top and oops, put a layer of gray on top, just lightly, nothing super saturated or opaque. And we're going to pretend like this is kind of like the base for the chainmail. You can go ahead and make it darker if you'd like. It doesn't need to be super dark. And put my chainmail to black, and I'm going to start making my strokes. Alright, so we're going to lock that. We're going to start bringing some of that back in. We're going to lower the opacity as well and just start blending it up. So I will see you back when I built more of this up. I added some more dark grays under the chainmail, so it has a little bit of a shine to it. It looks more rough. So if you're looking for a more rough chainmail effect, this would be a good brush or pattern to use. I probably could have toned down the brights a little bit more, but that's fine. So I just kind of layered everything on top of each other like I did before. You know, we can see how it has definitely a different shine to it when we add in the brighter grays or even some white. And it's, you know, if you build it up even more, you can definitely get some more interesting looks. So I'm actually going to duplicate that just to kind of cover the arm a little bit more around the shoulder. We're just going to do this. And then we're also going to use our transform. I'm just going to use a Liquify just because it's easier. And there we go. And do the same for this. Oops. Transform that. Kind of bring it in a little bit more. And then use the Liquify just to kind of move it around a little bit. Not too much, but just enough. There we go. That's looking more like chainmail-y. You could obviously add some more shine in there if you wanted to. I'm going to merge this. I'm actually going to add a little bit more white in there just because that's bothering me. So we're going to do a light gray. Let me see how this looks to make sure it's not too bright. Bring that up a little. Okay. I didn't do too much. I added a little bit just so to make it a little more consistent on the arm. So it has an interesting look for that pattern. Obviously, like the previous, you still want to go back and refine it a little bit more, but you can see how a little bit of work and build up can really add a really interesting effect to your chainmail. So we're going to group that and do the last pattern that I have used in this piece here, which is the horizontal pattern. I'm going to make sure that's working the way I want it to. So I'm going to leave the settings on as they are. I don't think I changed anything except I think I turned the softness off. That's about it. But I didn't change anything with the rotation. I just went for it. So just like everything before, we're going to start making our strokes, starting with the black. I'm not going to refine the pattern too much. I think it's fine as is. Worst case, I might go back and change the spacing, but I think for now this is fine. So we're going to fill in the arm with the pattern. I think this is good to start with. And if you can see here, I just kept going with it. So now that we've got the blacks down, we can start adding some dark grays in there. Because the under part is also dark gray, it might not show up that well. So you can either go back and change it to the skin tone if you want, or leave it. I'm going to add in some brighter grays. And as I'm building this up, I will see you when I'm done building it up. Alright, so as you can see, this looks pretty close to what I had here. This is more granite, not as much black, but the same concept as the previous. I went and filled in the area with the brush, kept the opacity low when I needed to add some more darks, more grays. I have a nice highlight there going on. A little too perfect, but you get the idea. And then I went and duplicated that to start covering the shoulder area, and I used the Liquify tool just to kind of bring that more on a curve. And then I just went back in with the brush and filled that in a little bit better with the scale. So we have a figure with a scale type armor on, or chainmail. Looks pretty cool. You get the illusion that she's wearing chainmail or some sort of armor, and that's really what you're going for. You're not looking to make every little detail, because if you are, that you're going to be spending a lot of time on the wrong thing. Like, okay, I gotta do this, and then I have to make the inside, and then you gotta, you know, go ahead and manually, you know, make the chain. That's a lot. That's when you're doing the illustration, you want to create the illusion that it is chainmail, right? So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and group this, and then we'll take a look at the three options one at a time. Alright, so this is a horizontal chain, which is what I used in this illustration here. It has a nice look to it. I personally think it's the easiest one to deal with and the quickest. Then we have the vertical pattern, which has a much different look to it. It has more of that ring look, just like the actual ring itself, and it has almost a more rougher look overall. This one is a little more complicated because you have to go and change the rotation of the brush, or the direction that the brush is going, for the pattern to work properly, but the payoff is worth it. And last but not least, we have the ring. Oops, not that one. Wrong one, sorry. We have the ring. Obviously I can go back in and refine this even more because it's really dark, but you get the same idea as with the other ones. You still have the illusion that it's a chainmail type armor or of similar nature. And obviously you can go back and refine that, but I think this one, it looks pretty cool too. I'd probably go back and change the spacing a little bit and maybe thin out the ring just a smidgen more. But that's pretty much it. Alright, so I hope this video and this series overall was helpful. As always, if you guys have questions, make sure to leave them in the comments below. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next video, and I will see you in the next one.